Hello everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar as part of our Retail Reimagined series. Today's topic showcases meldCX's use case, how computer vision and AI increases customer conversion. I'm Natalie Mendes, and I'll serve as your moderator for today's session. But before we begin with our presentation, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items on our platform. At the bottom of your screen are multiple application widgets you can use. All the widgets are resizable and movable, so feel free to move them around to get the most out of your desktop space. If you have any questions during the webinar, you can submit them through the Q&A widget. We will look to answer these during the webinar, but if a more detailed answer is needed or we run out of time, we will endeavour to connect and respond. An on-demand version of the webinar will be available approximately one day after and can be accessed using the same audience link that was sent to you earlier. So feel free to share this to your network. Right, that covers all our housekeeping items. Now let's take a moment to welcome our speakers from meldCX. First up, Stephen Borg, CEO and co-founder at meldCX. Stephen is a solutions-driven leader specialising in identifying and creating opportunities in greenfield markets. Stephen's key skills in strategy and design-led thinking has helped multinational companies expand markets, explore and pioneer new niches to introduce game-changing technology into competitive spaces. Welcome, Stephen. And joining Stephen from meldCX is Joy Chua, EVP of Strategy and Development at meldCX. Joy is a digital solutions strategist with a demonstrated history in information technology and the services industry. Joy is tasked as an advisor to key stakeholders across all industries, and she is passionate about digital transformation, especially merging the online to offline customer experience by utilising the best of connected technology in the physical space. Welcome to you both, and we look forward to your very informative session. So with that, I'll hand the mic over to you, Stephen and Joy. Thank you.
Hi guys, thanks for having us.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks as well, Nat, for that introduction. I think, hopefully after this session, all of you will learn a little bit more about some of the key insights we have about retail and what we've, really picked up, I guess, servicing some of our customers as well. So we're really keen to take you guys through. As Nat said, this is really interactive, so feel free to drop us any questions. You'll also see through our session and the slides, there'll be little polls that pop up as widgets. It really helps us tailor our content to some of your needs as well. So if you could, feel free to log your responses there. I think that would help Steve and I greatly. Cool. So it's a little bit about us. If you want to connect, please do reach out to us. Any questions that you thought we didn't cover, if you want to go deep dive into some of your problem statements for your clients or your partners or even your organization, please, contact details are on the screen. So reach out to us. We always love to hear from you. So connect with us on LinkedIn, or our email addresses are there as well.
Yeah, we're very passionate about this space. So This is merely a snapshot. So if you want to get deeper or understand more, by all means, reach out.
Yeah. So you'll see on screen now, it should pop up a little bit of, we want to understand how would you rate your own organization on its data-driven journey. So that should pop up. You could log your responses. That would be awesome as well for us. So yeah, a little bit about Meld. Yeah.
So do you want me to cover that?
Yeah.
Okay. A little bit about Meld. So Meld was actually born out of a large project that we were working with Google at the time, and we're trying to work out how to best enable edge-based analytics and data to filter back up to the cloud in a very usable way that can drive action-based decisions, right? What's happening right now, does that trigger an automatic decision or do I use that as data to make strategic decisions? And we worked closely with Google, and we found a gap in the market and started to work with some really large customers, and we really started from there, okay? So what we've done is essentially provided an end-to-end solution that makes this simple. You don't need a team of data scientists to get up and running, and allows you to use it for your business out of the box.
That's right. So that's exactly what Bob was talking about. So that's the product that we're hoping to take you guys through today. So that's called Fiana. So it's a suite of products within our ecosystem that's all around, like Bob said, really about driving, and combining best of breed technology across the AI and ML space and bringing that and converting that into actionable insights that, teams like yourselves can then take and use that to inform business decisions. And later during the session as well, we'll touch on a couple of our customers who are using that as well, and how they're using that, and some of the off-the-shelf modules that we have that allow everyone to just quickly spin up and run a use case and trial that.
The biggest gap in the market we found was that multiple customers had providers that will build a model, but not how to execute it, get it to the ground, orchestrate it, and pull data from that model that's usable. So that's really what we tried to pull together.
And, one thing that we're passionate about as well is, a huge shout out to the Yellowfin team as well. One thing we're really passionate about is working with partners to build turnkey solutions. So, Stephen mentioned earlier in the session, we work a lot with Google. You can see a list of our partners here who we work with, and they span a broad range. Obviously, with Yellowfin, we've got a great partnership with. We use Yellowfin to do some of our custom and standard dashboards as well that we take to market, and then we work with the likes of other tech giants like Google, Microsoft, Intel, and Meraki as well for some of our edge and sensors.
And we also have some similarities in that some of our customers or our providers white label us as well into their solutions. So you'll see we've got one really big one that you don't know we're in the background, but we deliver Spotify music into stores and do all that analytics, but no one knows it's us.
Yeah.
We just provide the platform for that to happen.
Exactly. And so a little bit about the retail landscape as we see it now. I think there's, a lot to be said about retail. And I think there's some really interesting studies, which we'll talk about a little bit more, that even ourselves as Meld, we are looking to participate in. I think COVID has made the whole experience of retail more, prevalent. Like everybody loves retail. And one thing that we found as well is, as you can see on the screen, we've got some sources that say that, still the physical store is still actually preferred to make purchases, which was one really key stat that I think when I was discussing with Stephen, we were really, in awe about. Personally, myself as well, I do like going to the retail store to do shopping, even if I might, pick something up online later after trying it out. That's how I would shop myself for my age bracket. And
what we're seeing some overseas clients, although they had a surge in online, that once opening up occurs, that the in-store presence is much more in demand, right?
Yeah.
And there's a higher expectation that presence will be more shoppertainment than anything else, right?
Exactly. So these are some key stats that you can see here. We found some key stats that said 60%, 64% of shoppers say that they still feel that retailers don't truly know them, which is really interesting given, all the tools that we have at our fingertips now, personalized emails, custom offers to ourselves, when we shop at a brand for a while, loyalty programs as well. Still, people, the majority of us feel that, the retailers which we shop at don't really know us.
And I think this statistic is becoming more and more important because when we talk to retailers, they have compressed supply chains. So they really need to target what they do have against the audience that will buy them. They no longer can have a massive in-store products to choose from. It has to be very targeted. And we're finding that they're asking us to help them target that.
That's right. And as you can see, we've got our next stat as well that says, we found an average 14% of the average order value increases when shoppers acted on AI-powered product recommendations. And we'll talk about that a little bit more and how, we've got a product that helps track those and measure those so that retailers like yourselves or your clients who are in the retail industry can take and make use of to make those insights and actions.
Yeah, and our mission with that is to deliver all that cool tech you use online around recommendations and product affinity and bring it into store, into a location.
Exactly. And I think shortly as well, I started off the session by saying for us, we're going to participate in a couple of studies as well. I think, pre-COVID, during COVID and post-COVID, we're going to see, a lot of people have been talking about that. We're going to see a fundamental shift in how customers or that customer experience is, especially in retail. And even for us, because we've got multiple products in our ecosystem, we've been talking a lot internally about what we call that new golden ratio. And that new golden ratio is what is good for the physical store, how do people interact with kiosk versus how much of it goes online. And I think for that, that's the new measure, I guess, retailers have to unpack in this new, post-COVID as we talk about opening up. And we'll share a little bit about how we're hearing our customers navigate this new kind of golden ratio for retail.
And one of the things we're seeing in Europe in particular is we're seeing that customers will only enter a store if they feel that that store, that location has responsible practices around COVID. So we've been asked to help with that, and you'll see a use case for that as well.
Yep. And I think we've got a question from Matthias as well. So thanks, Matthias, for your question. So Matthias' question is, do you think there's a risk of alienating people if retailers seem to know them too much?
Yes.
That's a question we get asked a lot during our brainstorming sessions.
And sometimes we even pull customers back, right?
Yeah.
I think being able to target and not making a customer feel alienated unless they've opted in and want that full experience, I think is really important. So sometimes it can be a subtle communication that seems like it's to all, but it's quite targeted. And on the other hand, we do things like hotel check-in, which has retail spaces where they want that single experience after check-in and want to know everywhere they go, it continues that experience. So it really depends on the environment and the use case, but 100% you need to be conscious of that and use the technology in a responsible way.
And I think we'll cover that as well, Matthias, how we're doing that. And I think the issue with the alienation and knowing too much is all about how much do you personalize, really? Like how detailed do you get to know an individual? And I think for us as an organization, there are a couple of things that we take to prevent this identification of the individual. And I think if people are grouped together in a stat, so for example, like myself, I'll be grouped into a certain age bracket, female category. If I'm part of a persona group and targeted as part of what my persona group would like, I think that I guess drawback or that pushback is actually much less than if it was very personalized.
And we'll take you through shortly that all our information is also anonymous. Right, so we're never going to target someone for the wrong reasons, and we'll show you some of that.
So in summary, with everything that we've learned as well, I think a lot of things that we've been hearing, pain points from our retailers, has always been about how do I use my data to tell a story even better, a story about brand, a story to my customers about what I stand for. All of that.
A story about how my visual communication is working and the impact in store.
Exactly, both internally and externally. And so that's what we've done basically. It's a simple end-to-end, platform for organizations to visualize the data for actionable insights.
Yeah, and it still has the flexibility to output that data into data sources that you might use as a retailer.
Yeah.
But what we've done is we've taken all that learning and all that data to create reports and create visualizations that we feel is the most effective representation and correlation of data that helps you instantly.
Exactly. And so it will come to, how do we actually, so talking about all of that, I guess, how do we help organizations deploy AI or ML? And so if you can see on the screen here, we've actually got 3 ways or rather these are the 3 building blocks. I won't say these are the 3 ways, I would say these are the 3 building blocks customers have worked with us on in order to run their AI and ML use cases. And we'll talk about how you can interact with us, and then we'll talk about what's available kind of off the shelf that people can deploy in that vertical.
And this is what we see as a typical order, but we do have some customers that start right at the end because they're sophisticated, they've gone through the process, and now they want someone to effectively pull all together what they were working on.
We find customers like that have a very key problem statement that they want to solve, and they're very clear of their outcome. And that's where, we interact with them, like Steve was saying, straight into that personalized or custom bucket, where we work with them to really train specific AI data sets that can help support their use cases. But with this particular building block, we generally recommend that if we were to do that, which we can, and we'll show you a little bit, you need to have a really clear problem statement and know what you want to solve. And I think that's where you get the best outcome from.
And ironically, they might start with that, and then sometimes they end up going back to the start, using, they've got their specific use case solved, and then they use all of our out-of-the-box use cases and evolve that way.
That's right. So essentially, there are 3 building blocks that we use to help organizations in their data-driven journey. So the first is ready to go, and basically, we generally recommend that for organizations that want to quickly start a POC, prove a value to the business. They don't want to get the IT team in touch with them too much. It's all about driving the business and the use case. We've got ready to go off the shelf modules, which we'll show later, that can be easily taken, deployed, and just run. And so that's one of our building blocks that we do. The other building block that we've got is to add your own module. So with that, basically what it is you as an organization are already, experimenting, or you have started your AI and ML journey, and, you're looking for other models or algorithms that can help supplement that or complement that.
A perfect example, we had a retailer that did a lot of work around people slipping and falling. They wanted to detect that, but they had no other models that complement that. So in isolation, it didn't do well. So they combined it with some of our existing models to know if someone slipped and then they got up and left, or they went for assistance, or they couldn't get up again. And once they combined it with our models, they were able to roll out their use case very quickly. So we got to use what they already had invested in and paired it with some of our technology.
Definitely. And more often than not, we do see a hybrid model where, we'll talk about some of the use cases where in the likes of, say, an Australia Post, we worked with them on a personalized model dataset, and they also use some of our ready-to-go modules to service their entire AI or ML needs in that data capture tool. So we're just going to show you a couple of examples. So as you can see on the screen here, these are what we call our ready-to-go modules. So these are off the shelf. They're ready. They can be deployed. All you need is really a camera. And depending on what use case you've got, maybe an edge device as well. It could be a small media player, like an Intel NUC, for example. And these are what you have off the shelf. So you've got entry monitoring, which you can see. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but entry monitoring at the bottom. We've got audience measurement, which is here. So entry monitoring, it's all about measuring foot traffic in store.
And some people use this for the amount of counting. So right now they might use it to monitor capacity. So the doors may not let anyone else in if it's at a COVID capacity, right? That type of thing. Or you can just monitor the amount of traffic. We have some retailers that are monitoring their near store traffic because they don't believe in the shopping center data is actual. So they're trying to understand the real data that's in front of their stores.
So that's an example of an off-the-shelf module. So there's entry monitoring. We've also got another off-the-shelf module over here, which is called audience measurement. And audience measurement is basically, we're looking at digital content or tracking how people are interacting and looking at digital content and giving those stats back so that, digital marketers or product marketers will be able to tailor their messaging to the target persona that's most interested in that content. So that's another off-the-shelf module. We have another off-the-shelf module. Do you want to talk about SAMI, which is right here?
Yeah, so SAMI is a module that monitors or creates a digital manifest for cleaning. So you can point to that table and you can say, okay, once X amount of people have interacted with that table or that booking, I will make that table unavailable for booking until someone cleans it. You'll monitor the hand movements of someone cleaning it and make it available again for a booking. It can be used on any surface. You just highlight that surface. And we're finding it being, used in hotels, the likes of Australia Post. And it really makes sure that the cleaners that you've hired to go do that role are specifically cleaning that, and you have a full digital manifest for it automatically created. So we're finding that becoming a very popular module right now, and that can be done for anything. We've got customers that are using it outside of a COVID environment for food preparation areas or anything that needs to be kept clean.
Yeah. And the last module that is available, off the shelf as well is right up top here is what we call our zone engagement module. And the zone engagement module is really a module where we're tracking tokenized individuals, so anonymous tokens, as they pass through the different zones of a building or a store, for example. So that what that means is we're aggregating an individual as they cross through the different camera feeds to understand their dwell times, how long they're spending in a certain zone. And you'll see in the next slide as well, we can even go as granular as to what products they're interacting with. So just bear in mind these 4 core modules. So that's entry monitoring, zone engagement, SAMI, which is our surface cleaning, and audience measurement. And we'll show you, so these are all our ready-to-go modules, but we'll show you in a context as to our second building block, which was bring your own model, how we are combining ready-to-go with bring your own models. So this is our next slide. Did you want to chat a little bit about product engagement as well?
So product engagement is a great module we've just released. So it allows us to determine engagement with product. Right. So, for example, we work with a client to determine in their retail spaces or their benches, how many people engage with a Samsung Galaxy versus an iPhone 12. And we provided that detail. We provided sentiment analysis when they were holding the product. How many times did they switch between the product back and forth? Did the product placement affect that product engagement? So effectively, and it's interesting, is that customer got to the point where they wanted to go back to vendors and charge per engagement, like charging per clicks in their retail stores. And this would allow that to happen. So it's an exciting module. We can also compare regions of shelves. So if you're a brand and you've invested in a whole bay, but for some reason the sales in the next bay of another brand is getting better results, then it could be offer based, not the shelving structure, or it could be how you've presented that shelving. So all of that detail trickles up, comes to light. You can compare it across multiple stores, and you can also cross match it with all the other data versus how much traffic there is, and how much engagement you're getting at a product and brand level.
And so if you notice on the screen, we've got those same 4 core modules that I talked about that are available off the shelf. So as you can see on screen, we've got entry monitoring, we've got zone engagement, we've got audience measurement, and we also have SAMI, which is our surface cleaning module. The only difference this example is some customers have come to us and they've already started playing with that idea of product engagement and customizing some models specifically for product. So what one of the retailers came to us with is they had some model data sets for, say, lipsticks, for example, or mascaras, and they brought those own data sets that they have and they captured, and we ingested those models into our own platform to add kind of a more holistic, end-to-end, start to finish customer journey, kind of mapping and AI and ML for that. So, yeah. So the last one as well, hoping this plays, please let us know if it's not playing. But if you can see on the screen here, this is the last one that we wanted to talk about in terms of the building blocks. And this is what we do when it comes to personalized training, or how we build custom models. And as you can see, what we do is we're creating a 3D environment, and our approach is all about using synthetic data so that we can simulate kind of realistic environments without having to, need that much video feeds, and allows us to manipulate elements in it,
and create multiple scenarios without needing to train. The other benefit of this, and this is why we're endorsed by Intel, Microsoft, Google, and Cisco, is we don't use human data in this training. So we make sure that the training can never be biased, racially biased, or any of those things that we've seen in facial recognition of the past, right? So it's pure synthetic data. We've created avatars, and we don't need to use hours of data of people stealing or doing the wrong thing to create the data set.
That's right. So I'm going to see. I hope that the videos, so the video is now playing, I guess. So apologies, guys. So this is an example of a 3D environment as to, we're matching, as you can see. For this particular example, we're actually looking at loss prevention. So you can see the gentleman in gray is actually going to start picking off the shelf soon. And with that, we can manipulate elements like what Steve was saying. We can change, if he's picking lipsticks versus he's picking fruit.
So this was a scenario where people put on uniforms or tops that look like employee tops. They went into multiple stores and stole a whole lot of high-value items. So no one bothered them, and it was a pretty good heist. So what we did is took those actions and monitored any hand movements that were removing products successively, and then applied those back to the cameras. So now all their stores will look for that action and notify.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the customer journey, and I think this was also to Matthias's previous question. So thank you again, Matthias, for your question about, alienating people because we seem to know too much. So we'll just put up on screen here talking a little bit about what we mentioned before, our anonymized approach to capturing data, and how we're taking the steps as an organization to do that. So if you can see on the screen, we've got 6 kind of blocks, or 6 key statements or things that we do to make sure that, we're keeping everything anonymized. And so we've split those up into, anything that's non-face and things that are, to protect people's privacy, if you can see over here. So some key things that we really follow are when we're looking at any images on our platform, faces are blurred in all streams and processed at the edge. So every person is turned into a token. If you can see on the left, this is an example of how people would surface on our backend platform. So we actually don't capture any face. And to add to that, we as an organization don't do any facial recognition. So one thing that we've learned in the data journey very early on is that a person is more than a face, really. And so there are other points of reference to a token that are important. And these includes, objects as well as non-face behavior. So object recognition could be things like, what someone's wearing, like a name tag or a lanyard. And non-face behavior could be, acts of aggression or falling in aged care, or even, the action of picking something from the shelves.
So by not identifying the individual, where it gives us more scope to look for behaviors, and every token creates a manifest. So then we start getting a manifest of that token and can build out, the frequency of shopping, where they travel in location, what they actually bought, it went over the line, and even right down to we have a customer that wants to look at the spending capacity of a particular store or a location. So we're looking at brands, are females holding a Gucci brand, or they are holding, a Coach, right? That indicates spending capacity of the region. So they're the type of things that we start to look at because we're not identifying.
Yep.
Right?
And so if you can see on the left as well, this is an idea of all the kind of metrics that you can get from a tokenized individual, including mood, and as Steve mentioned, apparel, what you're wearing, coat or Gucci bag, and attention span. So these are just elements of what we can capture of a unique tokenized individual. Awesome. And so this is, what we do as well in a process called anonymous re-identification. And that's where, as I mentioned before, we can aggregate basically data across the different camera feeds to track individuals as they move across the different zones. So that means we're able to get more accurate data because we're capturing that persona. We're not recounting a person twice, if that makes sense.
And this can be very powerful. We even have some customers that monitor if they're wearing the right safety equipment in their warehouses or in their picking or truck dock areas. So it's the same rules apply. We just make it look for certain things such as a vest and a hard hat, or it's an authorized person that has a badge. Right.
Understood. And so this is a really high-level snapshot of how we can capture customers' journey as they pass through the different zones and how they're interacting with the space and what we can do with that as well. So that's just a high-level overview. So you can see we're capturing the different zones that they're matching with, what their actions are, and how long they're spending in each of those zones as well. So this is just a high-level view. So before we went to the next section as well, and how we're actually using Yellowfin as part of our data journey and how we're surfacing up the dashboards, we've got a little poll as well to help understand, what are some of the top outcomes or metrics that are important to your organization, and what's the first thing you want to do if you could do it as well. So awesome. I think if you can see on screen, this is a high-level overview of the customer journey. We've broken it up into 6 key points, from when a customer enters the store to when they make a purchase. And so these are 6 key actions that we see, from discover to connect, explore, search and compare, experience, and then purchase. And we'll show you some of the modules that we have within the Viana product that match up to these actions, and how we're using Yellowfin's toolset to help us surface that data to our customers. Cool. So this is store level activation, or rather our discover phase. And as you can see here, we've matched this to basically our people counting or entry monitoring module, and you can see a couple of examples as well as to how we're using Yellowfin to surface that data, and we're using that to build really clean looking dashboards for our customers. And if they need a little bit of customization, we can do that as well. We can work with one of their partners or the agency partners to help bring that across. So this is an example of how we're matching basically the entry monitoring module together with the particular dashboard.
And this one's an interesting one because one of the most common problems we find for retailers and even sort of banks, we find that the content they're producing does not match the dwell time of the region, right? So most often the content is longer than the amount of time people will pay attention in that particular area. So what we do is we monitor that, and we help you tailor your content. And we had a recent use case where the content effectiveness, or the amount of watching, went from 30% to 84% just by making the content a little bit shorter and having the right color backgrounds, because it wasn't the same as the backgrounds that was on the wall. So that made a massive difference, and it increased conversion dramatically. So if you're going to spend all that money on content and a digital signage network, and you're delivering content that's too long for that location, they don't get to see the call to action. It doesn't make sense.
And we'll talk about that case study in a little bit. It's further in our slides. So I might skim through some of this so that Stephen and I can focus more on some of the use cases that our customers are using. So this is another example of our off-the-shelf module. As I mentioned before, zone engagement is one that we use to track a persona's interaction with a zone and how long they're spending with the zone. So this is some of our dashboards that we've got. And this is what we mentioned as well in terms of shelf engagement or product engagement, where we can overlay different forms of technology like heat mapping, or even with interactions to see how different personas are interacting with products on the shelves. And this was, to Bol's point before, we can track if, say, someone's interacting with a Samsung phone versus an iPhone 12 instead. So as you can see as well, how granular we can get. You can see a little dashboard here with all the different, data that's captured here, all the different pointy heels up here. That's just an example of what we've done as a POC for one of our retailers, where we're tracking, the different brands of phones and how customers are interacting with it. And we were able to help them get to an outcome where, they were able to either request for more MDF from a certain brand,
or position it the right way, or relocate it in their stores.
Yep. And so this is another interesting one. I might skim through it, but we can also do what we call post correlation, and that really is, tracking, whether a particular item. Well, I'm just going to use a phone for example, whether a particular phone has transacted, and so we can assign amounts to it. There's two ways we could do it. We could integrate to pause to get that, or we could assign. We don't want to integrate to pause because there's a lot to do from a technical perspective. We could assign certain data values to it and just get an aggregate of what has passed through to.
Well, you have one customer that can attribute every single ad to the sales uplift of a product. So they're correlating the ad when it played versus did it go over line versus pause data.
Perfect. And so these are some of the, retail stats that we can get. And, we also provide this to our, to staff to head office, for example, staff working at head office to understand, how people are interacting with content, are they happy or sad? But these are all available as well. So it's not just available to, frontline staff to understand, but also back-end coordination.
We have multiple departments want data cut in different ways.
Yeah, exactly. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about some of the use cases. And so this was something that Volga mentioned as well. So we're working with one of the big four banks, as you know, Westpac. We actually do have an Intel white paper on it as well. So if you're interested in, the Intel white paper that we did together in collaboration, please visit our website or reach out to Nat and Steph, and we can send that over to you, the link.
And there is a bit of content online. We won a Paris Design Award for this work. So there is some online, that submission online that you can search as well.
And so with this particular example, this was exactly what Steve was talking about, where, we were helping the team at Westpac understand, Westpac has so many product lines, so many different first home loans, so many different credit cards. We were helping them understand which product was most appealing to which persona or target demographic and validating that. And so we deployed basically our audience measurement and content effectiveness modules, deployed together with their digital signage network in branches to understand, which audience segment was more interested in what product and, bring more value to the branch that way.
And we even got viewers, we even got sort of how many views through when they experimented with multilingual content, so they can hone in the appropriate languages and the like. So
that's right. So that's a use case that we've got for retail banking. Another one that we have is that's just popped up. Another one that we have is we're working together with Australia Post. This one as well. There's a lot of press on this. We've actually displayed this together with Intel at the NRF show in 2020 before the pandemic happened. We were actually in New York demonstrating this.
While it was happening, while it started.
While it was just taking up. But we worked with them to do two things on our platform. So this is an example of a very personalized use case or a custom use case where we were working with them to understand parcel lodgement in two ways. One, how a kiosk would work and how, the user experience would be when you're doing self-service parcel lodgement on the kiosk. And then the second one that we're also working with them is proof of lodgement for small businesses. So when you're also doing self-service, but not towards a kiosk, but actually at that parcel drop-off chute that most of us may have seen at an Australia Post.
And the net result for this is that you didn't have to scan your own item and wait at the counter. It meant you can go and drop it off at the chute, and we would acknowledge that and let you know that we've received it, so you didn't have to wait in line. So they did that for multiple reasons: COVID, less contact, and also to have less people in store, so you can just get in and out.
Exactly. So these are, we've given two examples. I guess one is a standard dashboard or off-the-shelf modules that are available now, and this is another one that's custom. And so this is another one that we are working on. So this is a little bit of a hybrid one where we're working on, zone engagement for an Australian electronics retailer. And we're measuring, how customers are interacting as they pass through the different zones. What's their target persona for the different zones? Dwell time, especially, it's all around getting more information on the customer.
Yeah, and this also enables more vendor funding and confidence around their vendors that are providing the store-in-store experience or concession areas. So
for this particular retailer as well, we've got some other stuff in the pipeline. This will be a hybrid approach where, we'll be working with them. This is an off-the-shelf module, of course, but we'll be working with them on some other personalized use cases like loss prevention. But that's kind of phase 2. So watch this space, guys. So I guess, to sum up with the remaining time we have, I guess, what's next for retail, really? And so I think we spoke about this a lot in the beginning of the session. I think in the post-COVID world, there'll be so much that we would need to re-understand. Obviously, this 18 months for everyone has really shaped customer behavior and will shape customer experience as we get out of lockdown. And we spoke earlier about that golden ratio, kiosk. So self-service or kiosk versus, physical stores versus that online experience. And really working out kind of the nitty-gritty between how customers want to interact with each of these. But one thing that we're finding is, we've read a really good article that sees, post-COVID, there's going to be so much that's going to be needed in that customer experience space, isn't it?
Yeah.
And, a lot of customer experience or CIOs especially are really looking to redefine the CX experience over the next 5 years.
And I think the expectation is greater. So we're finding, as we said, where we see opening up again, the expectation is greater from not only from an experience point of view, but from a perceived compliance point of view. So those two combined is a big onus on any retailer.
Yeah.
So, we've tried to make it as easy as possible.
And I think that's why, I think organizations need to start that journey now, if they haven't already, on how do we start capturing and understanding customer experience using, some of the AI building blocks so that they can quickly pivot, they can quickly understand, and they can be nimble and agile enough to, come out of this kind of post-COVID world and understand consumers again. I think that's where, us and Yellowfin come in, and we're really excited to partner with the team as well. Cool. So I think in terms of next steps, thank you again, everyone, for your time today. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out to us. And, please drop myself or Steve a note anytime. Connect with us. We love to explore new greenfield use cases. So we're always here. Let us know.
We appreciate we've covered a lot of content in a short period of time. So if there's any questions, by all means, we're here to help.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen and Joy. And we have got the Q&A chat box open. So for the audience out there, you've probably got a couple of minutes to submit a question and get a time from Stephen and Joy. But really, the way you guys are using computer vision and data is so sophisticated, and bringing edge analytics to the surface is probably an area where you don't just have to use it in retail. I see a lot of other applications in, even train stations and, police stations and other areas where this computer vision, edge analytics and sophisticated data can be used. So congratulations. I'm going to be very wary about if I walk into a shop and I hear 80s music playing. It might just get my experience happening if it comes up on Spotify. One quick question. One quick question is, from having the data in a ready state for the use of your AI models, how long does it take to implement a program like this?
It depends. So if you're looking at one of the out-of-box ones, it's really as simple as connecting it to your cameras, either your IP cameras or your USB camera. We have a module that you can go in and select the areas of interest yourself, and you're up and running. So we have customers that get up and running in a day, and it starts trickling down to their cloud. Custom models, it really depends on the complexity of it. But we are doing one right now, which is very complex, and it's taking us, phase one, it's taking us about 3 months work. So.
That's quite a short time frame, which is great. If people have, drowning in their own data, they can get up and running with some quick stuff. Well,
I'll give you perspective. Our first project, we didn't use synthetic data. It took 2 years to get the first data model up because of the amount of data we needed. This is a published one, right? And then we did a straight up post, and we had to do handwriting recognition. We did it synthetically, and our synthetic engine was creating 11 billion references a day, rather than us having to scan 11 billion parcels a day, which is impossible. So that allowed us to do 3 years work in 12 weeks.
Wow. Yeah. I'm sure some of our audience out there would be excited to hear that, because you can get value quite immediately. Well, we have run out of time. I wanted to just congratulate you. You did win the Yellowfin Innovation Award that was presented to you yesterday, and it's no surprise why you won that, because of the sophisticated stuff that you guys are doing and the great partnership that we have. So thank you to you both for your informative session today. And thank you to the audience out there. If you have any questions, please reach out. There's a resource section where you can download some information in the platform about meldCX and Yellowfin. And there'll be a short survey once you look to sign out that if you can complete, it helps us get some feedback on our webinars. But again, Stephen and Joy, thank you so much. That was a great session.
Thank you
See you all next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.